Welcome to True Echo, where silence speaks louder than words, and one moment can shatter 1,000 judgments. Today, you'll witness the story of a young woman who walked into a ring as a joke, and walked out as a legend. This is the story of Danica Rivers, a name the world won't soon forget. You probably wouldn't have noticed her if you were there that day. She didn't walk in with a crew, no matching gym gear, no Bluetooth earbuds, no entourage snapping selfies behind her. Just a faded white t-shirt, baggy shorts that looked like they'd been through a dozen winters, and sneakers that squeaked with every step. Her name? Danica Rivers. But no one at Ironcliff Boxing and Performance cared enough to ask. They saw her and thought one thing: wrong place. Ironcliff was split in two. The front was all mirrors and ring lights, influencers doing squats for TikTok, rich kids treating workout routines like runway rehearsals. But behind the frosted glass was the real gym, the ring, the grit, the sweat. That's where Danica was headed. Not to pose. To fight. She walked past the glam zone without hesitation. Phones filmed her in passing, probably to post later with some mocking caption. They called her cosplay fighter, janitor's sister, walking kettlebell. No one said it to her face, they never needed to. The smirks, the stares, the camera lenses turning her into a meme said enough. Danica didn't flinch. She'd seen worse. She approached the front desk, where Chase Monroe, gym staff, model arms, and arrogance in every breath, stood next to a blonde TikTok star named Brittany Sloan. Brittany was mid-rant about her filter failing to fix her leg color. Chase was halfway through nodding when Danica gently placed her old canvas bag down. "Can I sign up for sparring?" Her voice was quiet but crisp. Chase looked up, smirking. "Sparring?" he repeated, like she'd asked to fight in heels. "This isn't a beginner's cardio class." Brittany laughed loudly, pulling her pastel top tighter like she was suddenly on camera. "Girl," she barked, not even turning, "is this Zumba? You trying to film a Netflix comeback or something?" Danica didn't react. She stood still, eyes steady, hands at her sides, waiting. Chase hesitated. He could have just said no. But he liked to play. "Have you trained anywhere before?" he asked. "Anyone to vouch for your skill? We don't want newbies getting hurt." Behind him, the whispers had started. Cliffside elite members, the ones who thought sweat was a brand, began turning, peeking, laughing. "She's got on thrift shoes," someone muttered. "She looks like she wandered in from a community center," another snorted. Danica still didn't speak. Not out of fear. Because she didn't need to. Then, like the moment a storm cracks the sky open, a voice rang out from the sparring area. "Sparring? Did I hear that right?" It was Jackson Creed. 80 kilos of lean, showy muscle. Self-proclaimed king of Ironcliff. Red and black gloves draped over his shoulder like a cape. Body shimmer oil glistening under fluorescent light. He strutted out, soaking up every stare like it was fuel. He looked Danica up and down, twice. "What are you, 50 kilos soaking wet? If I breathe too hard, you'll snap." More laughter. Danica didn't blink. "Who do you think you are?" he added, circling her like a ringmaster. "Michelle Rodriguez's stunt double?" Someone hollered, "Hey Jax, don't hit too hard, she's got a kindergarten class to clean after." Phones were out now. Streaming. Recording. Captioning. Danica didn't look at any of them. Just said, "You ready for a round?" The silence that followed felt like a dropped match in a dry field. Chase raised an eyebrow. Jackson grinned wide. Brittany choked on her own laughter. "She serious?" someone whispered. "She gonna fight Jackson Creed?" A few voices muttered bets. 30 seconds. 1 minute, tops. Jackson turned to Chase. "Sign her up. 3-minute round. Just for fun." Chase hesitated, but the crowd was hungry, and Ironcliff loved the spectacle. He scribbled it down. Danica Rivers. 1 round. 3 minutes. From the back of the gym, a quiet man named Marcus Reed, former Muay Thai fighter turned silent observer, narrowed his eyes. He'd watched her adjust her gloves. Her stance. The way her shoulders moved. He wasn't laughing. He was calculating. "Who is she?" a younger trainer beside him asked. Marcus didn't look away. "We'll find out in the ring." Tony Masters, head coach of Ironcliff, approached Danica before she stepped up. He offered a rough voice lined with years of experience and quiet condescension. "Just survive, all right? If it feels wrong, wave me off. No one will judge." Danica met his eyes with quiet calm. She didn't nod. She didn't speak. She just stepped into the ring. And the air in Ironcliff shifted, not out of respect. Out of expectation. Everyone wanted blood. Everyone expected a joke. What they got was something else entirely. The gym's lights seemed colder inside the ring. They weren't there to highlight performance, not anymore. Now they lit a battlefield. Danica stood in her corner, gloves hanging loose by her sides, shoulders relaxed. She didn't bounce or shadowbox like Jackson did. She didn't raise her gloves to the crowd. Her body was still, her eyes sharp. And that stillness unsettled those who were expecting nerves, trembling, excuses. Across from her, Jackson Creed fed the audience. He shadow-punched with flair, danced in place like he was on a pay-per-view card. "Who's ready to see a warm-up KO?" he shouted. Cheers rang out. Phones lifted. But Danica didn't move. Jackson winked at a group of gym rats near the ring, then cracked his neck and shook out his arms. "What's the matter, sweetheart?" he said. "Want to stretch before nap time?" Laughter again. Brittany Sloan clapped, recording with her front camera. Still, Danica stood quiet, her breathing steady. Her feet shifted only slightly, weight spread evenly, toes pivoted just so. Not the stance of a beginner, but a fighter waiting for the exact millisecond where movement becomes strike. And there in the back, Marcus Reed, silent, arms crossed, caught it. "She's not nervous," he muttered. The young trainer beside him asked, "Then what is she?" Marcus replied, "She's reading." "Reading what?" "Everything." The bell rang. A sharp, unforgiving tone. The crowd braced for a quick collapse. Jackson lunged. He led with speed, a triple combo right out the gate, jab, cross, uppercut, the same routine he used to drop a guy named Mikey just 2 weeks earlier. It was flashy, fast, designed to rattle and crush. But it didn't land. Danica slipped left, dipped her shoulder, pivoted on her heel. Jackson's fist sliced air like a missed drumbeat. She didn't counter. Not yet. She just returned to neutral, silent. Jackson snarled, not in pain, in embarrassment. He went again. Left hook this time. Danica tilted her head just enough. His glove skimmed her hair. Still no counter. Just movement. Fluid. Like a dancer trained not in choreography, but war. Some in the crowd began whispering. Did she just dodge that? No way. That was luck. Bro, she's not even sweating. But Marcus knew better. He leaned forward slightly. She's not dodging randomly. She's setting the rhythm. Rhythm? The trainer asked. She's playing jazz, Marcus replied. He's stuck in marching band. Inside the ring, Jackson started swinging harder. Anger was bubbling now. Pride. He was chasing shadows. Every punch came back empty, while Danica's feet never crossed. Her posture never broke. Her glove stayed up, not blocking, measuring. 3 minutes felt long when all you did was miss. By the second minute, Jackson was breathing heavier. His punches started to come sloppier. His shoulders dropped between combos. His feet started planting wrong. And Danica, she began to shift her arc. She was no longer circling away. She was cutting the ring. Subtle, precise, constricting. Every step she took now squeezed Jackson's space. Not with strength, but with angles. The kind that make a bigger man fight like he's wearing chains. "She's got him," Marcus whispered. "No way," the young trainer said. "She hasn't even hit him yet. She doesn't have to, not yet. She's draining him. Making him fight her rhythm. He's already off balance." In the third minute, Jackson tried to feint, step left, twist right, then across. Danica dipped, shifted, and slid behind him before he could recover. The crowd didn't cheer, they murmured. Something had changed. Jackson turned sharply, breath ragged, sweat pouring down his temples. He scowled. "Why don't you just stand still and fight?" he shouted, voice cracking like a mic too close to a speaker. Danica, for the first time, replied. "I'm waiting." Jackson's nostrils flared. He came in again, all muscle, no mind. This time a right hook so wide it nearly twisted him. And Danica, she stepped left, planted her back foot, and for a split second, pivoted her hips. Marcus stood up. "That's it. She's punching?" the trainer asked. "No," Marcus said. "She's checking range. She's about to hit him, and when she does." He didn't finish. The bell rang. The end of round 1. Danica dropped her hands. Jackson staggered back to his corner, sweat-drenched, frustrated, confused. The crowd was quieter now. The joke didn't seem so funny anymore. Danica didn't even sit. She stood, arms folded against the ropes, looking nowhere and everywhere all at once. Brittany lowered her phone slightly. She didn't even throw a punch. But it wasn't a whisper of awe. It was fear. Because everyone watching knew, somehow, the moment she did, it would be the end. By the time round 2 started, Ironcliff Boxing and Performance wasn't a gym anymore. It was a theater, and the silence was louder than the music. The trap beat that had been pumping from the Bluetooth speaker now felt like background noise in a horror film. The crowd wasn't laughing anymore. No one was cracking jokes about thrift shoes or janitor gloves. Phones were still up, but hands were trembling. Inside the ring, Jackson Creed bounced lightly, trying to mask his fatigue. His chest rose and fell faster than it should have after just 1 round. He rolled his neck and let out a loud exhale, hoping to psych himself up, and her down. Danica Rivers hadn't moved. Not during the break. Not when the bell rang again. She just lowered her chin slightly, raised her gloves, and stepped forward with the kind of calm that made veterans nervous. This time, Jackson didn't charge. He faked a jab, trying to bait her. Danica didn't flinch. He threw a real jab. She parried it with her left glove and pivoted out. He circled to his left, her right, and unleashed a right cross. Danica ducked low, stepped under it, and slid back out before Jackson could turn. She was now behind him again. And everyone saw it. "Did she just vanish?" someone whispered. "She's in his blind spot," Marcus Reed said from the back. "Every time." Jackson spun around, frustrated. "You keep running like a scared little girl." Danica tilted her head. "You're mistaking patience for fear." Boom. That sentence hit harder than any punch yet thrown. The gym fell into a nervous hush. Even the Cliffside elite crew stopped whispering. Brittany's phone, still recording, now had a stream of comments piling in like tidal waves. "She's not even tired. Bro is gassed. I think she's real." But Jackson wasn't reading the comments. He was fighting ghosts. And Danica was the one haunting him. His next combo came out of desperation: jab, hook, hook, overhand. All power, no control. Danica blocked the first, dodged the second, sidestepped the third, and ducked the fourth so close that his glove brushed her hair. Still, she didn't punch. She let him spin himself in circles. "He's burning up," Marcus whispered, watching. Breathing through his mouth. Arms dropping. Balance sloppy. The young trainer near him asked, "Why isn't she finishing it?" "Because the timing's not right," Marcus replied. "When it is, we'll know." In the ring, Jackson let out a growl. "You're a coward," he shouted. Danica slowly raised her gloves again, eyes calm. "You're loud when you're losing." That silence hit like thunder. Jackson snapped. He lunged, throwing a haymaker right hook with everything he had. His torso twisted too far, exposing his left ribs, his feet uneven, overcommit. Danica didn't dodge this time. She pivoted on her back foot, slipped inside the hook, and rotated her hips. For a split second, she coiled her whole frame like a spring. Then stopped. She didn't punch. Instead, she leaned back just enough to let Jackson's glove fly past her ear. He stumbled forward, off balance, disoriented. Danica stepped back into stance, still calm. The crowd gasped. "She could have hit him just now," someone said. "She didn't." Marcus smiled to himself. "She's waiting for the kill shot." Up on the cardio machines, the redhead in the pink Lululemon set had stopped live streaming. She was just staring now, mouth open. The guy who'd placed a $10 bet on Jackson in the first 30 seconds was sweating more than the fighters. And Brittany Sloan? She'd stopped filming. Not because she didn't want to. Because her phone was shaking in her hand. Jackson retreated, confused. He blinked at Danica like he was seeing her for the first time. His chest heaved. His footwork was gone. His punches sloppy. His ego bleeding. Danica still hadn't thrown a single strike. But she was winning, and everyone could feel it. Tony Masters, the head coach, stood near the ropes, arms crossed. His expression had shifted from pity to concern. He knew what it looked like when a fighter was dismantled without a blow. "Jackson," he muttered under his breath, "get out of the ring." But Jackson wouldn't. Couldn't. Not now. Not with the cameras, the followers, the pressure. He yelled again. "Fight me. Throw something already." Danica stepped forward. "Just one step." "I will," she said. "But when I do, you'll remember it forever." The bell rang again. Round 2 was over. No punches from Danica. But Jackson Creed looked like a man who'd already lost the fight, and didn't know how to admit it. When round 3 began, the crowd no longer had the hunger for blood. They had the hunger for answers. Because Danica Rivers, the girl they mocked, had already done the impossible, not with punches, but with silence. She'd taken a man nearly twice her size and stripped him of the one thing he relied on more than strength, control. Jackson Creed no longer looked like a fighter. He looked like a man drowning in front of an audience that once cheered him on. His mouth hung open, pulling in ragged breaths. His gloves drooped below his chin. His feet no longer danced, they dragged. And Danica? Still not sweating. Still not smiling. Still not blinking. As the bell rang, she stepped forward. No wasted movement. Just the calm calculation of someone who already knew how it would end. Jackson roared. Not like a boxer, like a man begging the room to still believe in him. He charged forward again, big, clumsy, angry. Every muscle tightened, every strike a scream for respect. He threw a right hook wide and low. Danica watched his shoulder. Not the glove. Not his face. The shoulder. She shifted left, ducked low, and Jackson stumbled past her again, nearly colliding with the ropes. The room let out a sound. Not laughter. Not cheering. It was a collective gasp. Like they were watching someone fall off a stage they built for him. Jackson steadied himself, barely. His knees wobbled. He shook his head. Danica advanced again, quiet, steady, relentless. Now the pressure was visible. You could see it in the way Jackson blinked too fast, in the way his gloves twitched, how he flinched when she raised hers. He wasn't trying to hit her anymore. He was trying to survive her. And still, she didn't throw a punch. From the back of the gym, Marcus Reed leaned forward, eyes sharp. "She's done playing," he said. The young trainer swallowed. "She hasn't thrown anything yet." "She didn't come here to trade punches," Marcus said. "She came to end something." The crowd shifted, phones now recording in silence. Even Brittany Sloan, the queen of fake gym motivation, had stopped speaking. She stood next to her tripod, arms folded across her chest, staring like she'd seen a ghost. Jackson tried one more time, a cross jab with whatever he had left. Danica tilted her head. Not much, just enough. The glove swished past her cheek. And then she did something no one expected. She stepped in. Not back. Not sideways. Forward. Into his range. Jackson hesitated, his body confused, predator or prey. And that's when Danica moved. Fast. Precise. Her left foot planted hard. Her hips rotated. Her right shoulder dropped low. Jackson's eyes widened, not in pain, but realization. He knew. This was it. The punch. It came from the ground up. A left hook. Not wild. Not flashy. A textbook perfect liver shot. Heavy. Deep. Unforgiving. It landed beneath Jackson's ribs, the ninth, right on the line. There was no dramatic sound. No cinematic slow motion. Just a dull, brutal thud. Jackson's face twisted before his body responded. His knees buckled. His eyes glazed. His mouth opened, not to shout, but to gasp. No air came in. His body dropped. Not like a man knocked out. Like a man unplugged. He fell sideways, collapsed onto the mat, curled around his own pain, both gloves clutching his side. The crowd froze. No one shouted. No one clapped. It was a silence that didn't feel empty, it felt judged. Because everyone in that room had played a part in this humiliation. Danica didn't raise her hands. She didn't gloat. She simply lowered her gloves and stepped back. Behind the ropes, Tony Masters climbed up, shouting for space. Back up. Let him breathe. A few trainers rushed in. One yelled, "That's a liver hook. Get him to his side." Jackson groaned, not from pain, but from disbelief. His eyes stared at the ceiling like it had lied to him. Danica stood at her corner, already unlacing her gloves. No sweat on her forehead. No emotion on her face. In the back, Marcus finally exhaled. "Cleanest liver shot I've seen in years," he said. That wasn't a punch. That was a statement. And just then, the gym door creaked open. Everyone turned. A figure stepped inside, tall, grizzled, leather jacket, eyes like they'd seen too many fights and not enough honesty. Michael Harper. Coach. Legend. He walked slowly, hands in pockets, eyes scanning the ring. And then he laughed. Loud, raw, and real. "I knew it," he boomed. Only she could land a liver shot like that. Danica Rivers. The Viper. Northeast lightweight champion. 3 years undefeated. A collective shiver ran through the room. What? Brittany Sloan dropped her phone. Chase Monroe went pale. Someone whispered, she was a champion. Coach Harper nodded, still grinning. Trained her myself. That hook. That's hers. Signature. I've seen it drop women twice her size. Men, too. He turned toward the stunned crowd. And you clowns laughed. No one could look him in the eye. The name Danica Rivers suddenly wasn't a joke anymore. It was history. And they'd just become the footnote. The weight of Coach Harper's voice landed harder than the punch. Danica Rivers, he repeated, as if daring anyone to still laugh. The Viper. 3 years undefeated. Took down the 2020 Golden Gloves favorite in under 2 rounds. But y'all called her janitor's sister. Not a soul moved. Chase Monroe, who had once rolled his eyes at her worn-out gloves, now stood frozen behind the desk, hands still resting on the registration clipboard where her name, Danica Rivers, was written like evidence in a courtroom. Brittany Sloan. Her mouth opened once, but nothing came out. Her phone lay face down on the floor, live stream ended, comments frozen in time. Wait, she's a champ. This isn't cosplay. This is cold execution. Jackson just got exposed. Coach Harper walked slowly toward the ring, each step echoing through the thick silence like the ticking of a bomb that had already gone off. You know how many people wanted to spar with Danica back in 2019? He asked, sweeping the room with his eyes. None. Because she didn't talk. She didn't pose. She earned. And when she stopped fighting because of her knee, they thought she was done. He looked at her now, calm, still, quietly removing her wraps near the ropes. But Danica didn't come here to prove anything to you. She came back to see if she still had it. And guess what? She does. More than ever. No one dared challenge it. No one even dared breathe. In the corner, Jackson Creed still lay on the mat, his pride shattered, his ribs bruised, the fire gone from his eyes. A paramedic had arrived, kneeling beside him, checking his breathing. He's stable, one of them muttered. It's a clean liver shot, all right. Might be weeks before he even jogs again. Someone from the Cliffside Elite crew whispered, she could have killed him. No, Marcus said flatly from behind. She chose not to. That punch. She held back. That was control. Precision. Harper nodded at him. Smart eye, Marcus. You saw it first. Danica stepped down from the ring. She didn't look at anyone. Didn't smirk. Didn't speak. She just walked. And every person she passed moved aside like shadows slipping from the light. No one dared make eye contact. The same mouths that had mocked her earlier were now clenched tight, holding in apologies they didn't deserve to say. As she neared the exit, a voice, young, male, hesitant, called out. Wait. She stopped. It was the guy who'd live-streamed the fight. The one she'd stood in front of before her final statement. The phone was still in his hand, screen dimmed, the last frame paused, Danica, staring calmly into the camera. He began, fumbling, do you want me to delete it? The video? Danica looked at him. Not with anger. Just stillness. I don't need you to delete it, she said softly. I need you to remember it. The boy nodded, eyes wide. Coach Harper stepped beside her, grinning like a proud father. You just made a lot of people rethink everything they know about boxing. Danica gave him a quiet glance. Not boxing, she said. People. And with that, she turned, hoisting her old canvas bag over her shoulder, the one they'd laughed at for being tattered, stained, worn, and pushed open the gym door. A breeze from the Brooklyn street outside swept in behind her, rustling the silence like a curtain finally falling. She stepped into the sunlight. Gone. But the room stayed frozen. Behind her, a kind of reckoning began to settle. Tony Masters, the head coach who had told her, "Just survive," stood against the far wall, face in his hands. His voice was low, almost inaudible. "I thought I was protecting her," he whispered. "But I was just protecting my own assumptions." No one corrected him. Coach Harper shook his head, muttering, "You all saw a quiet girl in old shoes. You didn't see the woman who took down 5 state-ranked fighters before she was 22. Brittany finally found her voice. Weak. Hollow. But why come here? Why now? Why not announce who she was? Marcus answered before anyone else could. Because the loudest victories are the ones no one expects. Harper added, and because people don't need to know your name, to feel your impact. They all turned toward the ring again. It was empty now. The sweat, the blood, the echo of laughter still hung in the air like regret. And up on the digital screen in the corner, the live stream replay had already started looping on the gym's social media feed. Danica. The dodge. The silence. The one punch. Jackson collapsing. Then the final frame. Danica standing before the camera, eyes unblinking. "I don't need anyone to remember my name. I just need them to remember one thing. Don't judge a girl by her size." The video hadn't even been posted 30 minutes. And it was already climbing toward 1 million views. By the time the sun dipped behind the Brooklyn skyline, the clip had crossed 2 million views. No filter. No soundtrack. No overlays. Just raw footage, a small black woman in worn sneakers dodging a storm of punches, then landing a single, perfect hook that dropped a gym titan to his knees. And then her words, not shouted, not angry, just, true. "I don't need anyone to remember my name. I just need them to remember one thing. Don't judge a girl by her size." Twitter exploded. Instagram Reels looped it with slow-motion replays and commentary like, "This isn't boxing. This is poetry with leather gloves. She didn't just win the round. She rewrote the rules. That liver hook should be in the Smithsonian." Reddit threads dissected her stance frame by frame. YouTubers began posting analysis videos, "The anatomy of a silent kill," Danica Rivers KO explained. Even major sports outlets picked it up. ESPN's female boxing segment ran a late-night story simply titled, "The Viper Returns." But the one person not watching any of this? Danica. She was back in her third-floor walk-up in Queens. No TV on. No phone in hand. Just her worn gloves resting on a wooden shelf, next to a chipped mug of black coffee. The window beside her was cracked, letting in the sounds of the city, a baby crying in the next apartment, distant sirens, footsteps on pavement, the rhythmic pulse of a life continuing. She wasn't seeking fame. Because this moment, wasn't about recognition. It was about reminder. In that ring, she hadn't been trying to embarrass Jackson. She hadn't wanted to become a viral clip. She just needed to know if she could still be the fighter she used to be. And now she knew. Her knee still ached, a dull, stubborn pain she'd grown familiar with over the past 3 years. The kind of pain that didn't demand attention but required respect. She sipped her coffee, eyes lingering on the street below. 3 kids biked past, racing each other down the sidewalk. One of them wore a makeshift cape. Another one shouted something about being a superhero. Danica smiled, barely. They didn't know who she was. And that was okay. Across town, back at Ironcliff, the atmosphere had mutated. The front desk now had a sticky note taped to the clipboard. No judgment. No mockery. Everyone starts somewhere. Tony Masters had called an emergency coaches meeting. For the first time in 10 years, he sat quietly, letting his younger staff speak first. It wasn't just the punch, one said. It was the look on her face, like she'd been here before, like she was just waiting for the noise to stop. Tony didn't interrupt. Another coach added, "We let the room become toxic. Flash over focus. Filters over fighters." Chase Monroe, the same man who'd scoffed at Danica's sign-up, hadn't said a word since she left. But that night, he stayed behind alone and rewrote the gym's trial policies. No more visual assessments. No more gatekeeping based on gear, size, or silence. From now on, every fighter got a fair chance. No filters. No favorites. The change was subtle. Quiet. But real. The next day, a girl came in wearing patched-up leggings and off-brand sneakers. Her hands trembled as she asked if she could try the bag. Chase didn't smirk. He handed her gloves and said, "Go ahead. You're welcome here." Danica's presence wasn't needed. Her impact remained. Meanwhile, on social media, people were still asking, "Who is Danica Rivers? Where can we see more of her? Why isn't she doing interviews?" And still, no word. Not a post. Not a tweet. Not even a story. Just the clip. Just the silence. Just the truth. In a world where people scream to be seen, Danica reminded them, silence can command more than noise ever could. She wasn't looking to reclaim titles. She wasn't returning for sponsorships. She had proven everything she needed to, not to the world, but to herself. And that was enough. Coach Harper, still smiling from the gym doorway days later, was overheard telling a young fighter. "She didn't come back for your approval. She came back to remind herself of her worth. Y'all just happened to be standing in the wrong place when the lesson landed." He tapped the wall, where someone had printed a still frame from the viral video. Danica's face. Calm. Unflinching. Captioned with her own words. "Don't judge a girl by her size." That image stayed up for good. Not framed in gold. Not lit with neon. Just pinned to the wall, paper, tape, truth. And it was enough. It's strange how silence makes the loudest impact. Days passed. Then a week. Still, Danica Rivers didn't show up at another gym. No press conference. No dramatic comeback tour. No brand deals. Just, life. But Ironcliff wasn't the same. You could feel it when you walked in. The LED lights didn't shine as arrogantly. The mirror selfies were fewer. The mockery, gone. Trainers now paused before judging. Sparring sessions were chosen with intention, not for performance, but for growth. And if you looked near the back wall, taped above the old first aid kit, you'd find a single worn glove, left hand, cracked leather, labeled only. The Hook. No last name. No timestamp. Just the proof. Because everyone remembered. Even those who hadn't been there. Especially them. At coffee shops across Brooklyn, strangers asked, "Did you see that video of the girl who dropped that guy like a sack of bricks?" On subways, commuters replayed the clip in silence. In college classrooms, psychology professors discussed the nature of public humiliation and the weaponization of silence. On talk shows, former fighters sat stunned as they analyzed her movement frame by frame. And yet, through it all, Danica remained untouched. A mystery in plain sight. Not a ghost. But a storm with no need for thunder. One day, a sports journalist managed to track her down. Not in a gym or studio, but in a quiet park in Queens, sitting on a bench with her earbuds in, reading a paperback. He approached gently, respectfully. "Danica, do you have time for one question?" She looked up, not surprised. Just present. He hesitated. Then asked, "Why now? Why come back after all these years, just to vanish again?" Danica smiled slightly, like someone who knew more than she ever needed to explain. "I didn't come back," she said. "I just stepped in, once, to remind people what it feels like when judgment meets reality. The journalist paused, absorbing the weight of her words. And what if people want more? Interviews? Matches? Sponsorships? She shook her head. They already got more than they expected. That's enough. He nodded, slowly backing away. Before leaving, he asked one last thing. If you had to summarize it, what was the lesson that day? Danica looked out at the street, where a young girl was trying to do jump rope tricks while her brother filmed on his phone. Her answer came like a breath. Strength doesn't need to shout. It just has to land. That evening, the journalist wrote an op-ed titled, "The Day the Internet Went Silent, and Learned to Listen." It became the most shared story on his publication in over a year. Back at Ironcliff, another sparring session ended quietly. A new girl, probably 19, small, nervous, stepped out of the ring after getting tagged once too hard by an older opponent. She started to apologize. But Tony Masters, now standing in the corner instead of lounging at the front desk, shook his head. You held your ground. That's what matters. The girl nodded, still unsure. Then she glanced at the photo on the wall, Danica Rivers staring straight ahead, that single quote beneath her. She smiled. And stepped back into the ring. Danica Rivers didn't just win a fight. She dismantled a room full of prejudice with a single punch, not out of rage, not for revenge, but for truth. And in doing so, she gave us all something far more powerful than a knockout. She gave us clarity. So let me ask you, have you ever been underestimated? Mocked because of how you looked, what you wore, where you came from? If so, remember this, you don't need to fight with noise. Sometimes, all it takes is one punch, timed, patient, and perfectly placed, to silence the entire world. If Danica's story struck a chord, share this video with someone who needs that reminder. Drop your story in the comments, we read every one. And subscribe to True Echo for more real stories where silence defeats arrogance, and truth lands like a hook to the heart. Because in the end, you don't need them to remember your name. You just need them to remember what you stood for.